Meanwhile, the protests in Hong Kong do not appear to be petering out at all. Now, over 1,000 Hong Kong school teachers braved thunderstorms and adverse weather conditions to start yet another weekend of anti-government demonstrations. Now, the teachers said that they want to show their support for the protesters, many of whom are students. After gathering in the Central Business District, they marched towards government offices chanting, "Hong Kong police, know the law. You are breaking the law." Now, the protesters are demanding for the resignation of the Hong Kong Chief Executive, Carrie Lam. They also want that democratic elections should be held. And besides this, they also want an independent investigation into the excessive use of force by the police.
This teacher is also citizen. They are very concerned about the development of the whole campaign. And we have another role. We want to protect our students, our youngsters. So teachers are willing to come out and speak for the youngsters and also stand by them so that they are not alone.
But things could in fact spiral out of control if China decides to send in troops to clamp down on protesters, and also given several indications that this is of course a strong possibility. The thousands of Chinese military personnel were seen parading at a sports stadium in a city across the border from Hong Kong. Now, armoured vehicles were also seen inside of the stadium in the city of Shenzhen, which is located right across the Hong Kong harbour near the border. Meanwhile, protesters in Hong Kong are pretty defiant as they have yet again resorted to laser pointers for demonstrations. The protesters used laser pointers at riot police after authorities deemed it to be a weapon. Now, this is of course not the first time that the protesters have brought laser pointers to demonstrations. Now, the protesters had earlier turned up outside of the museum with their laser pointers and also lit up the sky green. This was done to protest against the arrest of a protester who carried a laser pointer to one of the demonstrations. Now, this is not the first unusual weapon that protesters have resorted to in Hong Kong. Umbrellas have also played a major role in the ongoing protests, which demonstrators had used to block tear gas and also hide their identity. Now, the unrest in Hong Kong, which began as a protest against an extradition bill, has now morphed into one of the biggest crises that Chinese President Xi Jinping has faced since he has taken charge. And we also earlier spoke with our correspondent Patrick Falk in Hong Kong, and this is what he had to say about the protests.
There's been actually a lot of calls for people to try and mediate and to try and find some middle ground, because the leadership in Hong Kong just isn't there at the moment, and they are not negotiating or engaging in dialogue with any of the protesters. At the same time, though, I think we understand from Beijing that its priority right now is to see an end to the unrest, and they're not prepared to negotiate under these terms. Unfortunately, we're in the middle of a stalemate and we're not moving forward either way, and neither side's backing down. I spoke to one protester today who said, look, it was the Hong Kong government that threw this bomb in the first place, so it's really up to them to take the first step and make that first move to engage in dialogue and find the solution. That isn't happening at the moment. Of course, what people are worried about is that the end result could be ending the unrest by force.